Your siblings are the longest relationship of your life. Longer than your parents. Longer than your partner. Longer than your children. The brother who broke your toy when you were 7 will still be the person who remembers the smell of your childhood kitchen when you are 70. Your sister will be there at your father's funeral when no one else knows what to say. And yet, for millions of families, the sibling relationship is treated like background noise, something that just happens, something parents manage moment to moment with the same tired scripts. Who started it? Say sorry. Go to your rooms. In Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, parents have been quietly practicing something radically different. They do not ask who started it. They do not demand forced apologies. They do not act as judge and jury over every fight over a toy or a remote control or who got more cereal. Instead, they have a repair ritual, a specific, science-backed sequence that turns sibling conflict from a relationship destroyer into a relationship builder. And the research behind it, from the University of Oslo to the longest-running sibling studies in the world, suggests that this approach does not just reduce fighting. It builds sibling bonds so strong that they become a protective factor against anxiety, depression, and loneliness for the rest of your child's life. Let me take you inside the research first, because the numbers are more striking than most parents realize. The American Psychological Association calls the sibling relationship the longest-lasting relationship in most people's lives. It typically begins before age 5 and continues for 60, 70, sometimes 80 years. You will know your siblings longer than you will know anyone else. And yet, the sibling relationship gets dramatically less research attention than parent-child bonds or romantic partnerships. But what the research does tell us is profound. A longitudinal study from Iowa State University found that the warmth or conflict in your sibling relationship at age 23 is one of the strongest predictors of your anxiety and depression levels decades later. Not your relationship with your parents, not your career success, your sibling bond. Another study from Penn State found that negative sibling relationships are strongly tied to aggressive, antisocial, and delinquent behaviors in adolescence, including substance use. The sibling relationship is not a sideshow. It is a formative force, and most parents are handling it wrong. Now, here is where the Nordic approach diverges from what most of us were taught. In a typical Western household, when two children start fighting, the parent intervenes with a specific mental framework. Someone is the aggressor. Someone is the victim. The goal is to identify who did what to whom, assign blame, and extract an apology. This is what psychologists call the judicial model of sibling conflict resolution, and it has 3 catastrophic flaws. Flaw number 1, it teaches children that conflict resolution requires an external authority figure. They do not learn to navigate disagreement themselves. They learn to wait for a judge. Flaw number 2, the judicial model positions one child as wrong and the other as right. This creates resentment. The child who is forced to apologize, and let us be honest, they almost never mean it, learns that apologies are a transaction to escape. Punishment, not a genuine act of repair. Flaw number 3, and this is the one most parents never consider. The judicial model ignores the fact that in most sibling conflicts, both children contributed to the escalation. The younger child may have grabbed the toy first. The older child may have responded with disproportionate force. Both acts were real. Both mattered. When you pick a side, you are telling one child that their experience of the conflict does not count. Nordic parents take a fundamentally different approach. They do not ask who started it. They do not assign blame. They treat sibling conflict the way a mediator treats a neighborhood dispute. Both parties have valid experiences. Both parties need to be heard. And the goal is not punishment. The goal is repair. This approach has deep roots in Nordic culture, but it also aligns with what the science now confirms. Researcher Laurie Kramer at Northeastern University has spent 30 years studying what makes sibling relationships succeed or fail. Her program, More Fun with Sisters and Brothers, has been tested across thousands of families. And the number one finding from 3 decades of research is this: the most effective way to reduce sibling conflict is not to adjudicate individual fights. It is to teach children the skills of repair, listening, perspective taking, expressing feelings without attacking, making genuine amends. Kramer's research found that when parents are trained to act as mediators rather than judges, helping each child articulate their perspective, guiding them toward mutual understanding, sibling warmth increases, conflict decreases, and children develop better social skills with their peers. The sibling relationship becomes a training ground for every relationship they will ever have. And the training works best when the coach does not pick a winner. The coach guides both players through the play. Now let me walk you through what the Nordic repair ritual actually looks like, because it is not just a philosophy, it is a sequence, and you can start doing it tonight. The ritual has 4 steps. I will walk you through each one, and then I will show you why this sequence works at the level of your child's developing brain. Step 1 is called separate to regulate. When conflict erupts, and I mean screaming, crying, physical escalation, the Nordic parent does not start asking questions. They do not lecture. They do not yell. They calmly separate the children into different physical spaces just for a few minutes, not as punishment, not as a timeout. But because neuroscience is crystal clear on this point, when a child is in full fight or flight mode, their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, empathy, and self-control, is essentially offline. The amygdala has taken over. Talking to a child in this state is like trying to teach someone to swim while they are drowning. The first thing you do is get them to shore. The Nordic parent might say, "I can see you are both very upset. Let us take a few minutes to let our bodies calm down. Then we will figure this out together." There is no blame in that sentence, no judgment, just acknowledgement and a promise that repair is coming. Step 2 is called both sides heard. Once both children are calm, and this might take 2 minutes or 15, depending on the intensity of the conflict, the parent brings them back, together. But not for a lecture. For a structured conversation where each child gets to speak, uninterrupted, while the other listens. The parent starts by turning to one child and asking a very specific question, not what happened, which invites blame. Not why did you do that, which invites defensiveness. The question is, what were you feeling when this happened? The child who grabbed the toy might say, "I felt like he never lets me play with it, and I was frustrated." The child who hit might say, "I felt attacked, and I did not know what else to do." When both children have described their feelings, the parent summarizes, neutrally. "So you were frustrated because you wanted a turn, and you felt attacked and reacted physically. Both of those feelings are real." This is not about agreeing with the behavior. It is about validating the emotion beneath the behavior. And validation, as any therapist will tell you, is the doorway to change. Step 3 is called the repair question. This is the step that separates the Nordic approach from everything else. The parent does not say, "Now say you are sorry." Forced apologies are worthless. Every child knows this. Every parent knows this. A forced apology teaches a child to lie about remorse to get out of trouble. Instead, the Nordic parent asks one question to each child, in turn. What can you do to make this better? Not what should you do? Not what are you supposed to do? What can you do? This tiny shift, from obligation to agency, changes everything. The child who grabbed the toy might say, "I can let him play with it for the rest of the day." The child who hit might say, "I can help her build her Lego tower." The repair comes from within, not from above. And because they chose it, they mean it. They follow through. And here is what the research from Kramer's lab confirms. When children generate their own solutions to conflict, they are dramatically more likely to implement them and to use those same skills in the next conflict. You are not just solving this fight. You are building the muscle for the next one. Step 4 is called the ritual close. This is the part most parents skip because the fight already seems over. The kids are calm. A solution was found. Time to move on to dinner. But the Nordic parent does one more thing. They close the ritual with a small, symbolic gesture of reconnection. It could be a handshake. It could be a hug. It could be a silly phrase that only makes sense in your family. "We are Team Larson." Even when we fight, the gesture does not need to be elaborate. It just needs to signal, physically and emotionally, that the relationship has been restored. Dr. Dan Siegel, the UCLA neuropsychiatrist, calls this the most essential thing in parenting. Repairing ruptures, he says, is the most essential thing in parenting. Because life is a series of mismatches that get repaired then, mismatched again, then repaired again. This occurs thousands of times in a day, millions of times over a year. Children who experience this rhythm of rupture and repair develop resilience. Children who experience rupture without repair develop insecurity. Now let me connect this to the brain science, because understanding the mechanism will help you stick with this when it feels harder than just yelling, "Go to your room." When a parent mediates sibling conflict the Nordic way, 3 critical things happen in the child's brain. First, the separation phase allows the amygdala to de-escalate. Cortisol levels drop. Blood flow returns to the prefrontal cortex. The child literally becomes capable of reasoning again. Second, the both sides heard phase activates mirror neurons, the brain cells that allow us to feel what another person feels. When a child listens to their sibling describe feeling frustrated or hurt or excluded, their brain is simulating that experience. They are learning empathy not as an abstract concept, but as a lived, embodied skill. Third, the repair question activates the brain's reward system. When a child comes up with their own solution and sees it work, sees their sibling's face soften, hears a genuine okay, they get a small hit of dopamine. The brain learns that repair feels good. Over time, children who have been raised with repair rituals start seeking repair on their own, without parental prompting, because their brains have been wired to associate reconciliation with reward. Let me give you a concrete picture of what this looks like in a Norwegian home versus a typical home, and then you can decide which one you want for your family. Scenario: 2 brothers, ages 6 and 8. The 6-year-old has taken the 8-year-old's favorite marker without asking. The 8-year-old, frustrated from a long day at school, shoves his brother. The 6-year-old falls, cries, and screams, "I hate you." The 8-year-old yells, "I wish you were never born." In a typical home, mom rushes in. What happened? Who started this? The 8-year-old points at the 6-year-old. "He stole my marker." The 6-year-old, still crying, "He pushed me." Mom is tired. She has been managing these fights all week. She decides the older child should know better. "You do not push your brother. Go to your room. No screens tonight." The 8-year-old storms off, furious, muttering about how unfair it is. The 6-year-old got what they wanted, attention and the moral high ground. Both children have learned the same lesson. The way to win a sibling conflict is to cry the loudest and get mom on your side. In a Norwegian home, dad walks in. He sees both children dysregulated. He kneels down, eye level. "I can see this is a big one. Let us take 5 minutes. You sit on the couch. You sit in the reading chair." We all breathe for a moment. 5 minutes pass. The storm subsides. Dad calls them both to the kitchen table. He sits with them, not above them. "Okay, I want to hear from both of you. You first." He nods at the older child. "What were you feeling when this happened?" The 8-year-old, still simmering but no longer boiling, says, "He took my favorite marker without asking. I was tired and I got really mad." Dad nods. "I understand that feeling. It is frustrating when someone takes something that belongs to you. Now you." He turns to the 6-year-old. "What were you feeling?" The 6-year-old says, "I just wanted to draw a dragon. He never lets me use that marker. And then he pushed me and it hurt." Dad summarizes. "So you were frustrated because you wanted to draw, and you took the marker, and you were tired and felt violated, and you pushed." Both of those reactions make sense. Then he asks the repair question, to the older child first. "What can you do to make this better?" The 8-year-old thinks for a moment. The anger has faded. What remains is the small, uncomfortable awareness that he pushed his little brother. "I can say I am sorry for pushing, and I can let him use the marker for the whole day tomorrow." Dad turns to the 6-year-old. "And you?" The 6-year-old says, "I can ask before I take things, and I am sorry too." Dad does not force the apology. It came naturally, because the conditions were right. Then the ritual close. Dad puts a hand on each of their shoulders. "We are Team Solberg. Fights happen. What matters is we come back together." The brothers exchange a look. Maybe not friends again yet, but the bridge has been rebuilt. And next time, and there will be a next time, they will be slightly more capable of building it themselves. Now, I am going to tell you the hardest part of this approach. The reason parents abandon it. The Nordic repair ritual takes more time than yelling, "Go to your room." Maybe 5 more minutes. Maybe 10. And in the chaos of a Tuesday evening with homework and dinner and bedtime, 10 minutes feels like an eternity. I understand that. But here is what those extra 10 minutes buy you. A study from the University of Oslo's Department of Psychology, following Norwegian families over several years, found that sibling relationship quality in childhood was one of the strongest predictors of mental health outcomes in adolescence, stronger than peer relationships, stronger than academic performance. Children who learned to repair with their siblings grew into teenagers who could repair with friends, with romantic partners, with themselves when they made mistakes. And there is one more thing. Something I think about every time I watch two siblings fight. The sibling relationship is the only relationship where you can be cruel, 1 minute, and deeply loved the next. And both things are true. It is messy by design. The lesson our children need to learn is not how to avoid conflict. It is that conflict does not destroy love. Rupture does not end connection. You can fight with someone and still belong to them. You can be angry and still be family. That is what the Nordic Repair Ritual teaches, not through lectures, through lived experience, thousands of times, from the first fight over a toy to the last argument before one of them leaves for college. So here is what I want you to do. This week, the next time your children fight, and they will try the sequence. Separate to regulate. Both sides heard. The repair question. The ritual close. Do not aim for perfect. Aim for one step better than last time. The Nordic countries did not build their parenting culture in a day. They built it one repair at a time, over 50 years. You can build yours the same way. One fight, one ritual, one repair. If you found this helpful, subscribe and hit the bell. Next week, I am breaking down the science of why Danish children have the lowest rates of childhood depression in Europe and what their parents do differently in the first 5 years. You are not going to want to miss that one.